Hello, this is Keegan, host of the Headspace podcast, where we go at the heads pace. Today, we actually have our first guest, who isn't someone I directly know. She reached out to be on the podcast and talk about different topics like mental illness and stuff like that. So, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
All right. Well, hi, I'm Angel. I found your podcast through um the Subway
Subway
karaoke.
karaoke, yeah.
Yep.
He gave me a shout out. That was
Yep.
nice.
And when I kind of looked into the podcast and stuff, I love everything you do. I strive to educate people on mental illness and mental health. I struggle with 6 different ones: bipolar, borderline personality disorder, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And I have 2 kids, and I currently live in California.
Yeah, it's pretty far. Oh, yeah. Also, if the background looks different, it's because I'm in Ottawa right now for school. Because normally the
Oh, cool.
filming is on Toronto. Just for the audience, if they're watching the podcast, but people usually don't do that, they just listen, so you don't really notice. But yeah, um, so yeah, you. What was your background in education?
So I currently have 2 associate's degrees, one in early childhood education and one in theater arts. Um, Currently, I'm actually working at a theater, and I've been working with children for about 5 years.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because previously we had a guest who also was a early childhood educator, so there's probably a lot of
Yeah,
overlap there with the experience.
definitely. I was listening to that one. It was really cool hearing a different perspective on that.
Yeah, that's good. So, how do you think your job has affected your life?
Oh, it's definitely it's put everything into a whole different perspective in regards to, like, when I started school. I was actually pregnant with my first daughter. And so as I was like learning about what happens in children's minds, I was literally learning about what was growing inside of me.
Oh,
um, and with things like working in theater and early childhood together, what a lot of people don't realize is they go hand in hand. So I'm able to pull tactics and skills I got from one degree into the other, and just create like a very strong connection with both the kids that I work with and also with my own kids. And I'm able to go about things a different way than um, a lot of people without the theater background really have thought of before.
that's interesting. I never thought there'd be like an overlap between theater and childhood education. So, what could you describe that overlap then?
Yeah. So like one of the things in like acting classes is we do improv games, where you have to kind of like think on your feet. And one of them is like an imaginary ball, and you're supposed to like throw it across the room to someone and yell like a random noise. Um, and again, that kind of goes to like thinking on your feet. And with the kids in my class, um, if they're super super rambunctious, but say it's too hot to go outside, because for some students before like age 5, um, there's laws at like preschool and such where they're not allowed to go outside if it's over like 95 or 100 degrees. And incorporating those little improv games, like they love thinking of random new words, or new ways to throw this imaginary ball, and it helps them kind of get their wiggles out, while also kind of use their imagination in the classroom.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's cool. What made you lean more towards theater, like in your career now?
Well, right now, so I used to live in Idaho for about 4 years, and then there was where I started working with kids, and then when I moved back to California, since I'm originally from here, um, I was kind of exploring. There's more of a theater community here than there is in Idaho, so I was able to now pursue that side of my career a bit more, because Idaho had like 3 theaters, maybe, and a lot of them were like union actors and such. So having more of an opportunity for community theater here really helped me kind of grow and expand on it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so like California is where Hollywood is, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense then.
Yeah, and I'm only an hour from San Francisco, so that's a huge community within itself.
Yeah, that's great. I want to go there one day. It looks nice.
It depends on where you go.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times I've walked down the street and someone's pulling down their pants going to the bathroom on the side of the street. But then there's also areas of San Francisco where there's just a lot of community and culture, like Golden Gate Park or the Castro. Those are 2 of my favorite spots.
Yeah, that sounds nice though. I mean, yeah, like the Golden Gate Bridge is beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Also,
Yeah.
I'd also want to go to LA. It looks nice there.
Yeah, LA is one of my favorites. I frequent there often because it's right next to Disneyland, and I'm a huge Disney person.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Hey, well, back on topic. How do you think it was like raising a kid while you were still in education? Think that was stressful?
It was definitely a struggle for sure. I had my daughters back to back. So my oldest I had when I was 19, and my youngest I had when I was 20. And I had with both. I went into labor with both of them like right when each semester started. My oldest was like a week after spring of 2017 semester started, and my youngest was right after fall of 2018 semester started.
Wow.
So I had to take at least a semester or 2 off, both times, or with my youngest, I was literally right after she was born, I was in the hospital and I had my laptop with me writing an essay for an online class.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you got through it, right?
I did, yeah. And that's definitely something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
It was a challenge trying to keep schoolwork in order and such. And, there was a couple of classes every so often I had to either drop or like take later. I mean, I definitely failed 1 or 2 when I was learning how to be a new mom at 19. But
yeah. Well, I mean, you got through it, so good for you.
Definitely. Thank you.
How do you think you dealt with all do you think your mental health was like really bad during that time? Or?
Yeah, it was definitely, it was before I was actually diagnosed with anything but depression. I knew that there was something else there, but I couldn't really figure it out. And when I was in the middle of all of that, like aside from also the pregnancy hormones of just like being very moody and emotional, I would just kind of break out in tears sometimes for no reason. Or my partner at the time, I literally asked her to get me a sandwich from Subway, and she brought me a sandwich without mayonnaise on it. And I had a full breakdown, like sobbing in the shower over it.
Wow. So you think, since it was a more high stress environment, you were more irritable?
Definitely, for sure, yeah. And a big part of having BPD is a thing called splitting, which is where you go distinctly into black and white thinking. And basically everyone and everything is either on a pedestal and amazing, or you hate everything. And some really not saying not ideal is very much an understatement, but some cruel things can come out if BPD is untreated or you don't know that you have it. And I definitely struggled with that at the time, with having all of the extra emotions and hormones going through, along with the extra school stress. So it took me a couple of years to really, once I got the diagnosis, to kind of look more into splitting. And I now in my day-to-day life, that was 8, almost 9 years ago. And I have been able to kind of get a hold on that. But it was a struggle at the time, for sure.
Okay. So does splitting occur in the both the manic and the depressed phase, or what is it called?
Yeah. So with it splitting with BPD is a little bit different than like with bipolar, because bipolar has more of the highs and the lows. And the highs are like the manic phase. Like I think my record right now is 4 days without sleeping.
Wow.
Yeah, just 4 days straight. And that's when I'm more manic. Uh, and that's like the bipolar symptoms coming through. However, with borderline personality disorder, splitting is more around personality disorders in general. Like narcissistic personality disorder is also one that has a version of splitting, a different kind, but they still do it on a certain level. You can have a really low splitting, and that's when like everything is just like either upsetting you, like making you very irrationally just angry, um, or if it's a very high, it's like everything's incredible, nothing could ever be better than how it is right now. Very much God complex.
Mm. Oh, that must be tough to deal with then. Like, 'cause you're going from one high to the low, and so what have you found has helped with that?
So it's different person to person. For me, what I had to kind of learn is the signs of when I was starting to split. Um, so like what I started to notice is if my brain would go from like feeling completely normal to all of a sudden I wanted to like throw something. And I've never been a physical person. Like I've never been one to just throw things out of anger or punch things out of anger. Um, but when I noticed in my head it would go to that point, I was like, okay, something's happening right now. I need to take a step back. And so for me, I've had to kind of isolate myself. So like uh, my kids, luckily, because unfortunately, like I've split on them once or twice, because kids can get very overwhelming and overstimulating. Um, but I've when that happens, they're at an age now where I'm able to be like, hey guys, I need to go into my room for just a minute. Here's something to watch. Y'all know where your snacks are. I need to take a second. And they've started to learn that like I'll straight up tell them I'm having a bad brain day. And that's when they know, okay, leave mom alone for a little bit. Let's let her calm down. And then what I try to do is kind of break it down of, okay, this is what triggered this. What's the underlying issue with it? Because all splitting is something is triggered from our past that makes us feel unsafe somehow. And figuring out that underlying issue is kind of how I'm able to get it more under control and recognize where it's coming from.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know there was so much stuff behind the splitting concept. Honestly, I've never heard of it. It's good that you can educate me and the audience on it. Honestly, but yeah, it does sound very difficult to deal with, and it's, I mean, good for you. Even with two kids, and you're still able to handle all this. So what I got from what you're saying is that like being more self-aware of yourself and knowing when
Yeah,
something's going off, that can really
yeah,
help.
definitely. And it took like I've been in therapy since I was 16, and I currently am on two different mental health meds. I'm taking antidepressants slash anti-anxieties and mood stabilizers. And kind of the biggest thing with BPD is with most mental illnesses, you are treating the illness because it's like a chemical imbalance, like with depression having antidepressants and anxiety having anti-anxieties. Versus with personality disorders, my brain has literally been rewired due to like the trauma I experienced. Um, and so rather than treating the illness itself, they have to treat the symptoms. And so like for a while, I didn't think antidepressants worked for me because, well, I mean, for one, that was all I'd been diagnosed with. But for two, they just didn't really make a difference. or they would work for like a couple of months and then stop. And that's very common with personality disorders, because it's like I said, it's treating the rewiring of the brain rather than the chemical imbalance.
Oh, I didn't know about that distinction between personality disorders and and what was the other one you said?
Between like the chemical imbalance.
Yeah, so they're different, you're saying.
Yes. So like people that have depression, anxiety, it's just the brain not producing enough serotonin. I know there's more science behind it, but the basis of it is like it's your brain isn't producing enough serotonin, and the pills you're prescribed from that are to help like encourage your brain kind of boosting its serotonin levels. Whereas for me, I BPD stems from a being abandoned a lot, in different ways. For some people, it can be like their parents. It can be losing a lot of friends growing up. It There's so many different versions of like being of having that feeling of being abandoned, that my brain basically rewired itself to think like, oh, if I'm feeling unsafe in a scenario or I'm feeling unsafe with someone, that means that they're going to leave and I'm going to lose another person. And that causes different, depending upon the person, it can cause either some people will push others away first. So they feel like they have control and they're like, oh, well, if I push you away, then I'm anticipating and in control of getting hurt. So versus what I struggle with is I would cling to them and be like, oh, you're going to leave. Like, no, you can't leave me. Um, and that, of course, also can have different effects of that. The clinging can kind of be very overwhelming for people and kind of make them feel suffocated. And that can also lead to more splitting, because say I'm clinging to someone in a certain type of way, whether it be this can be shown through spam texting. I know before I kind of got a hold on this, there was one time I texted one of my exes who literally wasn't like they didn't respond to my text for like an hour, and I texted them like 20 plus times.
Wow.
And of course, when he was like, hey, I felt very suffocated from that. My brain went, oh, so you're going to leave me. And then I started freaking out about that, and went into a splitting state where I was like, well, if you're just going to leave, just say so. And they're like, that's not what I'm saying. Let's have a conversation about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, these issues must affect your relationships as well a lot, right? As you said. Do you think
Definitely.
how do you think you've improved on that over time?
Well, I mean, I've one of the big things is having very intense relationships, whether it be friendships, romantic relationships, or even like familial relationships. For me, I've definitely kind of learned to take things a bit slower, and I check in with my friends a lot, where if I'm interested in someone romantically, I'll straight up call my best friend and be like, hey, this is where my brain's at right now. What are your thoughts on this? And she'll either go, yeah, like that's after 1 week, it's normal that you would have a level of infatuation, versus if it's a lot stronger than infatuation, my brain's like, oh, I already think I love them. And she's like, no, 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 no. That's the BPD talking. That's because you're just getting attention from someone. You're loving the attention. It's okay to be invested in this person, but it's not love yet. Remember that. And that kind of helps me keep myself in check and make me more aware of the difference in how I'm feeling between, I like to call it logic brain and BPD brain.
Mm. And it's good to have a friend who you can rely on for that stuff then.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, she recently, she's my roommate right now, her and her husband, and she's helped, I've helped her as well. She's like, I've been experiencing some of this stuff, and I'm like, that's what I experience. And so she started, like talking to therapists and stuff, being like, maybe I have BPD, and because BPD can be confused with so many other different mental illnesses, it's one that's not commonly thought about until it's brought to their attention.
Okay. Why don't you help explain to the audience just exactly how it works, borderline personality disorder?
So how it works is there's 9 different criterias, and you have to fit into 5 of them to get diagnosed with BPD. One of them is the constant feeling of a imaginative or actual abandonment. There's a chronic feeling of emptiness. There's a hold on, I'm actually pulling it all up right now.
You can search it up if you want.
So frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships, identity disturbances, impulsivity or self-harm, reoccurrent suicidal thoughts or behaviors, rapid and intense mood shifts, chronic feeling of emptiness, inappropriate intense anger or difficulty controlling anger, and stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. So like how like the identity disturbance is something that a lot of people don't really think about too much, or notice it as a trait. But like for me, I have a very distorted sense of who I am. Like the main things that I know for sure about myself is I love working with kids and I love theater. I'm a huge Disney fan, and I was and I'm meant to be a mom. Those are the main things that I know like make up who I am. Everything else I'm still kind of learning along the way. That I'll like adapt to like new relationships. My entire personality will change based on who I'm in a relationship with. Which causes a lot of interpersonal issues with like my friends and such. And so it takes a bit longer to learn who I am and make the difference between, is this something that I actually enjoy and that I feel defines me, or is this something that I pulled from someone who I dated for 2 months? And we talked about the like efforts to avoid abandonment, and like impulsivity. A lot of the time I've noticed society kind of sees that as just like oh, I'm just gonna like, I just want to go jump off a bridge over there because that looks fun and jump into the water, so I'm just gonna go do that. Whereas impulsivity comes out in so many different ways, whether it be self-harm behaviors or overspending, or over sexuality. Those are kind of like the main ones. For me personally, I've definitely gone more towards the self-harm and overspending side, which is difficult to kind of get a hang on because I'm like, I need financial stability. Thank you.
Yeah. So, well, like, what's an example of like when you've spent too much money?
I mean, there was one time I went through a really, really bad breakup. This was a couple of years ago now. And when I was in kind of like, this was around the time where I was in a manic state because of bipolar. So I hadn't slept in 2 days. And I was also just like not taking care of mental health in a BPD sense either. So it was all kind of compiled on top of each other. And he and I had, so I had an Apple Watch, and then I bought him an Apple Watch for Christmas that following year. And somehow in my brain, I got the idea that spending $800 on a brand new Apple Watch would be the perfect version of revenge, because I had a better Apple Watch and a better series of Apple Watch than he did. So $800 later, the watch works great. I like it. But at the time, I didn't need to drop $800 on one.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you still have it?
I do, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it didn't go completely to waste.
Yeah, that's fair. But like, at the time, I was also in between jobs, so I especially needed to be saving money. And so I look back at that and I'm like, why?
Yeah, I guess that's a good example of how your mental health can come in the way of your finances.
Definitely.
Like, I feel like I'm impulsive sometimes too, but it's like not in like the way you said. Like, I just do dumb stuff for no reason. Like, do you get what I mean?
Yes, definitely. Everyone has a level of impulsivity for sure. It wasn't until I noticed the extremes that I went to on occasion that I was like, oh, maybe this is stemming from something else.
Yeah. Well, when did you get your first diagnosis?
So my first diagnosis of depression was when I was 16. I had kind of speculated beforehand that I had depression because like I had started self-harming when I was 11. And so by 16, when my therapist was like, yeah, you have major depressive disorder, I was like, yeah, I know. Like, didn't have to tell me. Like, good to have the official diagnosis, but yeah. And then it took until so that was 2013, and then it took until I was 22, so to actually get a diagnosis for BPD, and then it took until I was 23 to get a diagnosis for bipolar.
Okay. So it was a pretty long process, like a long
Definitely.
journey you've been on.
Definitely, yeah. And I'm 28 now, actually, as of today.
Oh, really? Is it your birthday?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
happy
Today's my
birthday.
birthday. Thank you. And I've come like since the first diagnosis back in 2021. Oh wow, those ages aren't adding up. Maybe I was 22 or 23 when I got diagnosed with BPD. Either way, it was back in 2021 that I got diagnosed with it. And now it being for almost 5 years later, I've noticed a major shift in how, since I've been able to start working on it in ways that that are needed and appropriate my for my diagnoses. Like something that really made an impact was having BPD. You need to go to through a different kind of therapy, like just usual. I don't want to say generic therapy tactics, but they don't work as well. I'm completely spacing on the type of therapy it's called. It's like there's an acronym for it.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm oh, there it is, DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, which is different than how a lot of therapists go approach it. I have a workbook that will, if I feel I'm overreacting or that I'm starting to split, I'll sit down and this workbook will say like, okay, what's the event that happened? How did you react? How did it make you feel? Where, what are the events that led up to this event that caused you to feel that way? And that's how it kind of breaks it down, so you can get to the root of what's happening, rather than just being like, oh, go through coping skills. Like coping skills have never really been something that's worked for me, like the deep breaths, and like counting backwards and stuff, that's never really done anything for me. It was the breaking it down when I was really able to work through different things.
So it's more like problem solving then, just like helping you
Exactly.
get over it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you think, and it's been a big help for you?
Yes, definitely. I've it's very important to find a specific therapist that knows how to work with that. Um, and once I started kind of using those tools, um, I was able to do it without the workbook. Like one time that that always sticks out to me is I asked one of my friends to pick me up a vape because I vape, and I did, and mine had burnt. So I was like, "Hey, will you pick me? Will you grab me one on your way over? Like, this is the flavor I have. I'll send you the money for it when you get here, so I know exactly how much I'm sending." And he was like, "Yeah, no problem." So then he got there and he went, "Oh, they didn't have your flavor, so I got this one." Which it was like the flavor I wanted was watermelon strawberry, and he got me watermelon. So it was like it wasn't even like that big of a jump. It was just like they didn't have the one with strawberry, so here I got to the next best thing. And immediately, like, my brain was just like stupid angry for no reason. And even like in the moment, I was like, this makes no sense because like he still got me a vape. He still made a point to go out of his way to like pick this up for me. So why am I angry? And I had to go into a separate room and pause for a second and go, okay, what were the events leading up? And I was able to kind of deduce it to the fact that there was just a lack of communication there, and that I was just upset because he didn't text me beforehand and say, hey, they didn't have your vape. Is this flavor okay? Or they didn't have the flavor you wanted, so I picked you up this one. And that one instance, like not communicating that normally wouldn't be a big deal, but because of like the trauma that I've been through and such, there was never any communication in any sense of the word, like with my family or with like past abusive partners. So just that little bit of lack of communication sent my brain into like hyper emotional. And that was actually, that specific incident was when I kind of learned, okay, communication is a huge thing for me, and I need to really encourage that and communicate that to people.
Okay. Well, it's good you realized. Yeah, I think, but I mean, I feel like in any relationship, communication is really important.
I agree for sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely tend to over communicate now because I'm like, I don't want this to be the reason that I get upset with you, because it can be literally, like I said, over nothing, just a different flavor of vape.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, relationships are hard, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I've been on a long journey with them. My like my ex who I had my kids with, so she's a trans woman. We met when she was identifying as male. About 5 years into our relationship, she transitioned to female. I always like to clarify that because whenever I say I had kids with her, and everyone's like, she? Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. But her and I started dating when I was 14 and she was 17, and we were together for 7 years. And we had a very, very tumultuous relationship, which we talk about now. And we have a very good co-parenting relationship and very good communication skills now. And we're able to talk about where she'll tell me like, hey, you said this one thing a lot, and that really affected me, and I'm still like having issues with it to this day. And there was things that I did that at the time I thought was a completely rational and normal reaction. And she's like, you kind of like you caused a bit of trauma in my life. And having to kind of sit back and realize like, oh, I really didn't understand what was going on in my head and how heavily this was affecting me and the people I loved at the time. It made it my relationships now are definitely healthier for sure. And like, as I've said, I've been able to kind of manage that, but realizing that I had done that kind of damage to someone, uh, that was one of the things that really made me strive to figure out what the hell was going on in my head.
Okay, that's fair. So wait, so the relationship ended, like, was that due to her transitioning or like?
No, so that relationship ended because we it became fairly abusive. I know on my end I got very verbally abusive. On her end she got very physically and verbally abusive. So when we broke up, we definitely had to kind of, take our own space. But it's been about 6.5 years now. And we've gotten to a point where we're able to kind of talk about our past and talk about what the other person did, that, like, what I did that affected her, what she did that affected me. And as our kids have gotten older and such too, we've discussed the potential of like family therapy, even though we don't all live together still and like we share custody of the kids. We're still a family on some level, and we still do stuff together, like with the kids. Like, we've still got, like, since we've broken up, we've all gone to Disneyland because we both wanted to see the kids in Disneyland and such. So we've discussed still going to family therapy and having and still being able to thrive as a family, even if you don't have a romantic relationship.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm happy to hear you're still able to interact. Like, you're not on bad terms. Because I feel like if you guys hate each other and you have kids, that's really tough, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. When things were still kind of tumultuous, like when we first broke up, because obviously both of us had a level of resentment, which is bound to come from abusive situations. We couldn't be in the same room. We couldn't even talk on the phone without having a screaming match with each other. And it took about 1.5 to 2 years for us to really sit down and be like, okay, we're both adults. This is hurting our children. We need to figure out how we can manage this together as a team and not always be one-on-one against each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what's something you think helped you improve that relationship with her after the breakup?
Yeah. So definitely being like a level of self-awareness, for sure on my end. And also the willingness to listen and understand what I did affected her, and her saying something that I would say to her a lot is, "You're a piece of shit." I would say that a lot, and it was literally over just the most random stuff. Like, if she disappointed me, that was something that I would say, and at the time she would say like, that really hurts, and me being a teenager and undiagnosed, I was like, oh well, like, that's just how I speak, you just have to get used to it. And as I got older, I realizing like her saying that hurts her isn't an attack on me. There's no reason I should get defensive about that. She's telling me how she feels and she's communicating how she feels, and it's not my job or my place to tell her that she's wrong for feeling that way and to feel attacked just by her expressing like how she's feeling to me. And that made a world of difference. And when I communicated that to her, like, this was how I was handling things now, and then she started to implement that as well. And even when we get hostile with each other now, because there's, we're bound to have arguments every so often, both of us are able to kind of come back together at the end. And she's said to me a couple of times, like, I handled that really poorly. I'm really sorry for how I talked to you and how I treated you there. I shouldn't have gone about it the way I did. And vice versa. I've said similar things to her. Just the each of us having our own level of self-awareness, and realizing that us telling each other isn't us telling each other how we feel and what's going on in our own heads isn't an attack on the other person. We're just trying to have a amicable relationship and not have any more resentment build than had already happened from our past.
Yeah, that's good though. Good that you can make it up, and I think the diagnosis really helped you figure out ways to get over it or get through it, right?
Definitely, yeah. When I first like told my mom about how like this was pre-diagnosis, when I first told her like I'm kind of looking into this, she got really uncomfortable and was like, well, why do you need to put a label on it? Why can't you just like realize you're having those symptoms and work with it? And I got it, and it wasn't even just my mom that said that. Like my stepdad did. I had a couple of friends that said that were just like, "What's the big deal about the label? You don't have to label everything." And for me, it was like, it's like you're right. I don't have to label everything, but having that label helps me understand better what the hell is going on in my head and how the hell I can help it. Because I can only do so much of the same stuff that's not working before I just get fed up. So having that diagnosis opened up a whole other world of research and of coping tactics and tools that I've been able to use and really implement.
Yeah, just attaching a name to it. That makes sense.
Exactly.
So, well, it's about all the time we have for today. It was nice talking to you, and I feel like we learned a lot. And so, if the audience wants to contact you, what's your contact?
So on Instagram, I'm I'll probably spell this out on Instagram. My handle is Angel Ariadne. So just all one word. So ANGELARIADNAE.
All right. Yep. And that's all for today. Well, it was nice talking to you.
You as well. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.